In Monstropolis, a city pulsing with the energy of countless children's laughter and screams, life was as normal as it could be for Mike Wazowski and James P. Sullivan, or Sully as everyone called him. The scare floor buzzed with its usual rhythm of doors sliding down rails, monsters in all shapes and sizes passing through portals to scare, or more recently, entertain, the children of the human world. The Monsters Inc. factory had shifted to harvesting laughs instead of screams, a transition that had brought the company and its workers more joy and fulfillment than anyone had ever thought possible. Sully and Mike had found purpose in their work and had developed an unbreakable bond through all the challenges they faced. However, an unusual event soon changed the ordinary pace of Monstropolis. A strange cosmic anomaly, one that left scientists baffled and mystics whispering of magic, had begun weaving magical energy through Monstropolis. Strange relics and peculiar artifacts from another world, a world Sully and Mike had never seen, started appearing randomly around the city. Reports buzzed through the news of items that shimmered with an unknown aura, or glowed with a haunting blue light. But as rumors grew, one discovery in particular set the stage for a life-altering adventure. One chilly evening after a long day of laugh collection, Mike and Sully decided to explore the Monstropolis junkyard, which had grown infamous for harboring some of the strangest artifacts. Rumors of the junkyard's eerie atmosphere had spread, with whispers that it held treasures from unknown worlds, ancient relics said to be enchanted by powers beyond their understanding. Mike, ever the curious one, thought that if any treasure or magical item might be lurking there, they'd be the first to find it. After all, as he put it, who better than the two best laugh collectors in Monstropolis to dig up a little treasure? The two of them wandered through piles of metal scraps, broken gadgets, and discarded factory parts until they stumbled upon a peculiar object buried under layers of dust and debris. It was an ancient-looking lamp, ornate and covered in strange, swirling patterns that seemed to shimmer in the dim light. The lamp looked as if it didn't belong in Monstropolis at all, as though it had come from a world far, far away. Mike, intrigued and hoping for a hidden fortune, rubbed the lamp's surface to wipe away the dust. In an instant, a burst of brilliant blue light erupted from the lamp, engulfing the junkyard in a dazzling glow. Sully and Mike staggered back in surprise, shielding their eyes from the radiance. When they finally opened them, a towering figure hovered above the lamp, adorned in flowing blue robes, with an infectious smile that lit up the entire junkyard. The genie from Agrabah had arrived in Monstropolis. The genie stretched his arms, delighted to be free from his confined space, though visibly puzzled as he looked around. He took in the metallic scenery, the looming buildings of Monstropolis in the distance, and of course the two monsters staring at him with wide-eyed astonishment. "Whoa, this is definitely not Agrabah," the genie remarked, scratching his chin with a puzzled look. "What is this place? Monsterpalooza, Scareland, and who are my new green and blue friends?" Mike, always the first to recover his wits, puffed up his chest, offering a nervous smile. "Well, I'm Mike Wazowski, and this here's James P. Sullivan. Sully for short. You're, not from around here, are you?" The genie laughed, his voice booming with joy and echoing across the junkyard. "You could say that, little buddy. Name's Genie, and I come from a land far, far away. And as luck would have it, you two just became my new masters. 3 wishes, no limits. Well, almost none." He leaned in conspiratorially. "Just don't ask for more wishes and we'll be golden." Sully's mouth fell open. The idea of having 3 wishes at their disposal was both thrilling and a little terrifying. Mike, on the other hand, grinned from ear to ear, visions of endless screams and laughter canisters flashing before his eyes. They couldn't believe their luck. After a brief huddle, Mike and Sully decided to keep things lighthearted with their wishes. For their first wish, Mike jokingly asked for the scare floor to be filled with endless scream canisters so they'd never have to worry about hitting their quotas again. The genie, with a flourish of his hand, made it happen in seconds. They both laughed as the factory became brimming with canisters, each glowing with the energy of children's laughter and screams. The employees at Monsters Inc. marveled, and the scare floor supervisor didn't know what to make of the sudden influx. For their second wish, Mike asked for extra vacation days and maybe a private beach in the tropical zone of Monstropolis for some much-needed rest. Again, the genie snapped his fingers, and Mike and Sully found themselves with the keys to a luxurious beach bungalow, where they spent the weekend basking under the simulated sun and sipping mocktails. Genie played along, joining them with jokes and pranks that had them laughing for hours. Sully and Mike had never felt so carefree and exhilarated, but their happiness wouldn't last. Randall Boggs lurking in the shadows as always, and with burning jealousy. Ever since Sully and Mike had thwarted his attempts to rise to the top, he'd been waiting for an opportunity to take revenge. When he saw them cavorting with the genie, summoning all manner of luxurious and powerful things from seemingly nowhere, he knew he had to have the lamp. The promise of unlimited power was too tempting to ignore. Randall slithered back into the darkness, his mind whirling with schemes to get his hands on the genie's lamp. But he couldn't do it alone. He needed allies. Strangely, the merging of Monstropolis and Agrabah had also brought some of Agrabah's most dangerous figures to Monstropolis. Dark-hearted individuals drawn by the power radiating from the city. Randall tracked down a group of thieves, menacing figures who had once served Jafar himself. Together they devised a plan to steal the lamp from Mike and Sully, to take control of the genie and use his power for their own sinister purposes. Randall's moment came on a stormy night. Sully and Mike, still giddy from their weekend of relaxation, were fast asleep in their beach bungalow. Randall and his new allies slipped into their quarters, moving silently through the shadows. Randall's eyes gleamed with a predatory hunger as he approached the lamp, his hands reaching out to claim the ultimate prize. With a quiet, malicious grin, he rubbed the lamp, summoning the genie into his service. When the genie appeared, his face fell. He recognized the darkness in Randall's heart, a hunger for power that reminded him of his past servitude under Jafar. But bound by the magic of the lamp, the genie had no choice. Randall was now his master. For his first wish, Randall commanded the genie to make him the most powerful, terrifying monster in Monstropolis. With a heavy heart, the genie granted the wish. In a blinding flash of magic, Randall transformed, his body growing more menacing, his scales hardening, armor-like plates, and his eyes glowing with an unsettling predatory gleam. The once sneaky, scheming monster was now an unstoppable force, his aura of terror palpable to all who crossed his path. Randall's second wish was even darker. He demanded control over Monsters Inc., the very heart of Monstropolis. The genie granted this as well, his powers reshaping the factory to reflect Randall's twisted vision. The once friendly scare floor became a nightmarish production line, draining both laughter and screams from the children's world at an unprecedented rate. Randall reveled in his newfound power, ruling over the factory with an iron fist. He forced the employees to work longer hours, their cheerful laughter replaced by fear and dread as they slaved away under his watchful eyes. Sully and Mike, horrified by the transformation of their beloved factory, knew they had to act. The genie, bound by his own magic, managed to slip them a few hints about how to defeat Randall. They'd need allies, powerful ones who understood the magic Randall now wielded. Sully and Mike took the genie's hints seriously. They knew they couldn't handle this on their own, not with Randall's newfound power and control over Monsters, Inc. The heart of Monstropolis had become a twisted version of itself, and everywhere they turned, they saw their friends and colleagues either too frightened or too defeated to fight back. Randall's rule had drained not only the energy from children's laughter, but also the spirit from Monstropolis itself. Their only option was to follow the genie's clues and seek allies in Agrabah, the strange, mysterious world that had collided with their own. Agrabah, with its ancient magic and legendary heroes, might hold the key to undoing Randall's reign of terror. The genie had hinted that two figures in particular, Aladdin and Jasmine, might be able to help, as they had experienced facing off against powerful forces fueled by greed and ambition. Determined to save their city and free their friend from Randall's dark wishes, Sully and Mike set off on their journey. They didn't have much to go on, but they knew that somewhere within Monstropolis, a portal had opened to Agrabah. Rumor had it that the portal was hidden deep in the Monstropolis library, an ancient building filled with forgotten lore and magical texts, many of which predated the foundation of the city itself. Guided by whispers and the genie's clues, they made their way to the library, moving swiftly through the darkened streets to avoid Randall's patrols. Inside the library, the atmosphere was charged with energy. Strange golden lights flickered in the corners, casting shadows that seemed to dance with a life of their own. As they moved through the labyrinthine aisles, filled with dusty tomes, Sully and Mike could feel the magic thickening around them. At last, in a secluded chamber lined with texts written in ancient script, they found it, a swirling portal shimmering with an otherworldly light. Without hesitation, they stepped through the portal and found themselves in the bustling, sun-drenched streets of Agrabah. The vibrant sounds, the aromatic spices in the air, and the sight of towering sandstone buildings were unlike anything they'd ever seen. Agrabah was as alive as Monstropolis had once been, and the contrast only strengthened their resolve to save their city. Their unusual appearance didn't go unnoticed. As they wandered the streets in search of Aladdin and Jasmine, curious onlookers whispered and stared, though no one dared approach. At last, after hours of searching, they caught sight of a familiar face, one they'd only heard of from the genie's tales. Aladdin was talking to a merchant in the marketplace, a sly grin on his face as he haggled for supplies. "Aladdin," Sully called, waving his massive furry arm. Aladdin turned, his expression shifting from curiosity to surprise as he took in the sight of the two monsters. But as strange as they appeared, he sensed no malice in them, and he approached them with a cautious friendliness. "You're not from around here, are you?" Aladdin asked, eyeing Sully and Mike with a mixture of amusement and bewilderment. "No, we're not," Sully replied, his tone serious. "We're from a place called Monstropolis. The genie sent us here. Well, we found the genie and now he's in trouble." Mike nodded, his face contorted in urgency. "There's this really bad monster named Randall. He stole the lamp and made some terrible wishes. He's taken over our world, and we need help to stop him." Aladdin's eyes darkened at the mention of the genie's enslavement. He'd fought Jafar and freed the genie from his last master, but it seemed that the genie had fallen into another's hands, yet again. Just then, Jasmine appeared beside Aladdin, her gaze steady and filled with compassion, as she listened to Sully and Mike's tale. "Randall's turned our factory into a nightmare," Mike explained. "He's using it to drain all the laughter and screams from children more than ever before. And he's using the genie to make himself stronger, more terrifying than any monster should be. We can't stop him alone." Jasmine glanced at Aladdin, her expression resolute. "Then we'll help. We can't let anyone enslave the genie or terrorize innocent people, not in your world or ours." Together they devised a plan. Aladdin and Jasmine would travel back to Monstropolis, with Sully and Mike using the element of surprise to their advantage. Randall, ever the egomaniac, believed himself untouchable in his new role as ruler of Monsters, Inc., and he wouldn't expect a rescue team from another world. But taking down Randall wouldn't be easy. Aladdin and Jasmine understood the nature of magical power better than anyone, and they warned Sully and Mike that they would have to be clever to hit a villain who was now the most powerful monster in Monstropolis. Aladdin suggested they play on Randall's greed, luring him into making a third wish that could backfire, trapping him forever just as Jafar had been trapped in the very lamp he had once controlled. With the plan in place, the group prepared to return to Monstropolis. They made their way back through the portal, emerging in the darkened library. Monstropolis felt different than before. The oppressive energy radiating from Monsters, Inc. cast a shadow over the city, and the once bustling streets were eerily silent, as if the city itself held its breath in fear. As they approached Monsters, Inc., they saw the full extent of Randall's transformation. The factory was now a looming fortress, its walls darkened, and its windows glowing with an eerie green light. The scare floor, once filled with the sound of children's laughter and playful monsters, now echoed with screams and cries for help. Randall had twisted the factory's purpose, turning it into a machine of fear and oppression. They slipped into the building, careful to avoid the guards, monsters loyal to Randall who patrolled the hallways, their eyes cold and unfeeling. As they moved through the corridors, Mike whispered to Sully, worry etched across his face. "I never thought I'd see this place like this. We have to stop him, Sully." "We will," Sully replied, his voice steely. "For Monstropolis, and for the genie." At last, they reached the main control room, where Randall sat on a throne-like chair, overseeing the operation with a cruel smile. The genie floated nearby, bound by invisible chains, his face a mask of sadness and regret as he watched Randall's every move. Randall's eyes narrowed as he noticed them entering, his expression twisting into a mocking sneer. "Well, well, well. If it isn't the Laugh Brigade. I'd heard you were causing trouble, but I never expected you to bring guests." Aladdin stepped forward, his gaze fierce. "We're here to free the genie and put an end to this madness, Randall. You don't know what kind of power you're messing with." Randall chuckled, his laugh cold and mirthless. "Oh, I know exactly what I'm messing with, and thanks to my wishes, I have power beyond anything you can imagine." Sully, bristling with anger, stepped forward. "You're nothing more than a coward hiding behind stolen magic. Without the genie, you'd still be hiding in the shadows, Randall." Randall's eyes flashed with fury, but he quickly composed himself. "Maybe, but that's not the case now, is it? I'm in charge, and I plan to keep it that way. The genie's my servant, and there's nothing you can do to stop me." But Randall's arrogance was his weakness, and Aladdin knew just how to exploit it. With a calm, calculated tone, he said, "If you're so powerful, why don't you make a wish to become truly unstoppable? Why not wish to be the most powerful being in all worlds?" Randall's gaze flickered with intrigue. The idea of becoming all-powerful was tempting, especially if it meant he would surpass every other monster, every creature in existence. He looked at the genie, who subtly glanced toward Aladdin and Sully, giving them a small, almost imperceptible nod. It was all they needed to know that their plan was working. With a triumphant grin, Randall turned to the genie. "Genie, for my third wish, I want to be the most powerful being in all worlds." The genie hesitated, a glimmer of hope shining in his eyes. He glanced at Sully, Mike, Aladdin, and Jasmine, then nodded solemnly. "Your wish is my command," he said, his voice tinged with a hint of satisfaction. In an instant, magic swirled around Randall, surrounding him in a whirlwind of power. He laughed, reveling in the energy coursing through him, certain he had gained ultimate strength. But as the magic intensified, his laughter faded, replaced by a look of confusion and fear. The energy pulled him downward, his form shrinking as he was sucked into a familiar golden lamp that had appeared out of nowhere. His screams echoed through the room as he was bound within the confines of his own wish, trapped just as Jafar had been. The genie let out a sigh of relief as the lamp clattered to the floor, its surface still glowing faintly with the remnants of Randall's energy. He turned to Sully, Mike, Aladdin, and Jasmine, his eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you," he said, his voice soft. "You've freed me from yet another nightmare." As the echoes of Randall's screams faded, the oppressive energy that had hung over Monsters, Inc. dissipated, leaving a heavy, yet somehow serene, silence. The once menacing glow of the factory dimmed, and the ominous green lights flickered and died out, replaced by the familiar gentle hum of the scare floor. It was as if Monstropolis itself had exhaled a long-held breath, relieved to be rid of Randall's dark influence. The genie hovered in mid-air, visibly relieved but also humbled. He looked around the room, taking in the faces of Sully, Mike, Aladdin, and Jasmine, each of whom had risked everything to free him and restore peace to Monstropolis. Floating over to Sully and Mike, the genie placed a hand on each of their shoulders, his eyes glistening with gratitude. "I owe you all more than I can ever say," he began, his voice thick with emotion. "You didn't just save me, you saved your city, your people. And you reminded me that even in the darkest of times, friends will always stand by each other." Sully grinned, clapping the genie on the back. "That's what friends are for. Besides," he added with a chuckle, "we couldn't let you be bossed around by Randall forever." Mike nodded, rubbing his eye with a sniffle, trying to hide the fact that he was more touched than he wanted to admit. Yeah, don't get all mushy on us, genie. Just make sure you don't end up in any more lamps, okay?" The genie laughed, the sound filling the room with warmth. "No promises, Mike, but I'll do my best." He glanced over at Aladdin and Jasmine, his longtime friends, who had come to his aid once more. "And as for you two, what can I say? You've saved me twice now. I'm starting to think I owe you a few more wishes." Aladdin shook his head with a smile. "No need for that. We're just glad you're safe." But the genie's gratitude ran deep, and he had one final gift in mind. "I know that bringing our worlds together caused some unintended chaos," he said thoughtfully. "So, if you'll let me, I'd like to grant one last wish, to separate Monstropolis and Agrabah once more, but to keep a door open between them. That way, our worlds can stay connected, and we can visit each other whenever we want." The group nodded, their hearts swelling with the idea of keeping their newfound friendships alive, despite the vast differences in their worlds. With a wave of his hands, the genie summoned a final burst of magic. The air shimmered and they felt the ground tremble slightly beneath their feet as the worlds of Monstropolis and Agrabah slowly pulled apart. In the center of the room, a new door appeared, a portal between the two worlds, its frame adorned with golden carvings and bright blue gemstones that glowed faintly with magic. "Whenever you want to visit, just walk through this door," the genie said, gesturing to it. "It'll take you wherever you need to go." Sully and Mike exchanged a look, a mix of excitement and relief on their faces. Their adventure had been far more intense than they'd expected, but it had forged friendships they would cherish forever. As they prepared to part ways, Aladdin placed a hand on Sully's shoulder. "Take care of your city, Sully. You've got a good thing going here." Sully nodded, his expression serious. "Same goes for you, Aladdin. And hey, if you ever need some monster muscle, you know where to find us." With a final round of farewells, Aladdin and Jasmine stepped through the door, disappearing in a shimmer of light as they returned to Agrabah. The genie lingered for a moment, watching them go before turning back to Sully and Mike. "Well, fellas," he said with a wink, "I'm off to do some sightseeing in Agrabah. Don't have too much fun without me, okay?" With a playful salute, the genie vanished in a flash of blue smoke, leaving Sully and Mike alone in the now peaceful factory. Days later, Monstropolis had returned to its lively, joyful self. The scare floor was once again filled with laughter, the monsters back to their playful routines. Monsters, Inc. was no longer a place of fear, but a hub of joy and camaraderie. A place where everyone, from the smallest assistant to the biggest scarer, felt like family. In their office, Sully and Mike kept a small replica of the genie's lamp on their desk as a reminder of their adventure and the friends they'd made along the way. Every so often, they would glance at it and share a grin, recalling the whirlwind of excitement and danger they had faced. As they worked, the door connecting Monstropolis to Agrabah remained in the corner, a symbol of the bond between their worlds. It served as a reminder that friendship could bridge any gap, even one as vast as the divide between monsters and magic. One day, as the snow fell softly over Monstropolis, a letter appeared on Sully and Mike's desk. It was written in a flowing golden script. "Dear Sully and Mike, thanks for reminding me what it means to be free and for showing me the power of friendship. I'll always be just a wish away if you need me. Happy holidays to my two favorite monsters, Genie." Sully and Mike shared a quiet smile, their hearts warmed by the reminder of their friend. As the laughter of children echoed through the scare floor, they knew that their adventure had left an indelible mark on Monstropolis, a mark of courage, unity, and a friendship that transcended worlds.